And his compassion and his empathy is something that we still greatly need in the media landscape, particularly in a time when you have leaders like Donald Trump in the world. I think the broadcasters with that kindness and that empathy that Joe Duffy brings are so essential.
Yeah, we're going to show you something on screen, which is a little bit of artwork, in fact, made by Joe Duffy himself. If you're a long-time viewer or follower of this podcast, you'll remember 2 years ago, we had a chat on the pod about an item that I had done on radio at the time for World Autism Awareness Day. That had started with an explanation of the Maori word for autism, which is tami watanga, which translates as in their own time and space, which I thought was a lovely way to conceptualise neurodiversity and some of the challenges that it presents for the people who have it. And out of nowhere, and the man who I'd never crossed paths with, I'd never spoken to him, I'd never shook hands with the man, I didn't even know if he knew my name. A couple of weeks later, I arrived back into News Talk where I was doing the Sunday morning show, and there's a package there, and I bring it home, and there's a card, and there's that piece of artwork from Joe Duffy, who thought that the piece was just so nice that it warranted being sort of marked in its own way. So if you're able to see it on screen, Sunday, April the 2nd, 2023, World Autism Awareness Day, tami watanga in their own time and space. Gavin Riley, News Talk. And I just thought it was
so thoughtful.
For someone who you could presume lived in real ivory towers in RTE, hosting one of the most listened to things in the country, he'd be more than entitled to kind of just decide to cloister off his own life and not pay attention to what people are doing on private sector radio or whatever else he was doing. But that he did, and thought that it was worthwhile just making up a little bit of artwork and sending it to me, I just thought was the nicest thing. And it's still up on the wall in my daughter's room.
He is that kind of person who's very thoughtful and very generous of spirit to others. And, I said this when it was first announced a couple of weeks ago, I will sorely, sorely miss Joe Duffy. Yeah. I really think that he has, done a great service in terms of public service broadcasting. He has given a voice to the voiceless, and his compassion and his empathy is something that we still greatly need in the media landscape, particularly in a time when you have leaders like Donald Trump in the world. I think the broadcasters with that kindness and that empathy that Joe Duffy brings are so essential.
Yeah, and this isn't a comment on any of the lengthy number of people that have been touted as runners and riders to take over the show. I presume the show is staying as the show, but none of them will be Joe Duffy.